So if you're someone who watches my videos and also other videos when discussing the next generation Nintendo system or the Nintendo Switch 2, I would say that you're probably more of a tech enthusiast than most people, as you're actually looking at these types of videos and you're interested in speculating about the system and how powerful it's going to be, what it's going to have in terms of its chips and things like that. And I would say that I'm also one of these types of people as well. It's why I make these types of videos. I've always just been very interested in technology, and especially when it comes to Nintendo systems and Nintendo hardware. But it's definitely different, I would say, from like the casual Nintendo fan who just wants to play new games and they like playing their Mario and Zelda games, but they don't really care that much about the system that they're being played on. And anyone who's been following the leaks and rumors about the Switch 2 has pretty much accepted that the next Nintendo system is going to be around the power and performance of a base PlayStation 4 and close to also a PlayStation 4 Pro. And so for those tech enthusiast fans, this definitely makes a lot of sense, but the reason I bring this up is because it seems like this information really kind of made it out there into the mainstream Nintendo audience this past weekend, as especially on Twitter, there's been a huge meltdown of some Nintendo fans like being very disappointed upon hearing the information that the Switch 2 is going to only have the performance of like a PS4, and it's not going to be close to what we're having right now with other systems, and apparently it's going to be like last gen and it's already going to be outdated. So I figured I'd make this video to kind of explain exactly why the Switch 2 having the performance of a PS4 is actually really good, really impressive, and it makes total sense. So firstly, if you're just wondering where all of this information is coming from, this is coming from somebody known as Necrolipe, who is a journalist and writer for the Universo Nintendo Portuguese fan website, and apparently he had some inside sources tell him information about exactly what the Nintendo Switch 2 specs are going to be, which he then put in an article in Portuguese, and so we had somebody here on the Gaming Leaks and Rumor subreddit translate everything into English, and the most important thing here was that it says here there's going to be a 12-stream multi-processor GPU with performance ranging from 3.5 to 4.5 teraflops in docked mode and 1.7 to 2.0 teraflops in handheld. And so basically this would mean that if we're kind of giving like an estimate in terms of performance, it would be around like a base PlayStation 4 in terms of handheld mode, and then in docked mode it would be kind of close to a PlayStation 4 Pro. And I guess this information like reached the casual Nintendo fans over the weekend, as we had a lot of these types of tweets coming out saying like, Nintendo is the most washed gaming company. What do you mean the Switch 2 is as powerful as the base PS4? That console is a decade old. I did not know so many people were complacent with Nintendo always being a generation behind. And it's like, I feel like these types of people don't really understand the tech that is going behind the types of systems and what Nintendo is trying to do here. And that's what I'm really going to be explaining to you guys in this video. Now, the first thing that I feel like people are just completely missing is the form factor between these two devices. If you own a PS5 or an Xbox Series X right now, compare that to the size of your Nintendo Switch, and do you not notice how it's significantly bigger than what the Switch is? And there's a reason for that. If you want to have that type of crazy performance like what you're getting on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, you need to cram a lot of tech into a really big system so that you can fit all of that performance, but you also need to have really good cooling, as it's going to be running really hot, it's going to be a huge heavy system, and that's why those systems are like that. It is basically impossible to fit that type of technology and performance into a small tablet-like device, which is what the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be. If the next Nintendo system was just going to be a traditional console that you hook up to your TV and you put it in your living room or your bedroom, and then you just have a traditional controller to be able to play games on it, then yeah, I would agree that this type of rumored performance is pretty disappointing considering what other systems like the PS5 and Xbox Series X are able to do. But that is the exact opposite of what the next Nintendo system is going to be. Nintendo has found something very special with the Nintendo Switch, allowing for this hybrid-like device that you can play on your TV but also take with you on the go, and they don't want people to kind of go away from that, which is why the next generation Nintendo system, pretty much every rumor is just saying that it's going to be just like the Nintendo Switch again, but it's going to be more powerful, maybe some better features and things like that, but at its core, it's still going to be a Nintendo Switch that you can play on your TV and take with you on the go, hence why everybody has been calling it the Switch 2. And that's why for a portable-like device, having that type of performance like a PS5 and an Xbox Series X is just not really possible. But slightly going off of that, with this discussion about portable devices and power and performance, sometimes people like to bring up the idea of phones and say like, well, my phone is more powerful than the Nintendo Switch, I'm able to run games in like 90 Hz or 120 FPS on these powerful Android devices, I'm even able to play stuff like Genshin Impact, which they said that they would make for the Nintendo Switch, and it's still not on the Switch yet, so how come my phone is able to be even smaller than this and more powerful, and the Nintendo Switch 2 wouldn't be able to have that? And for people who bring up this point, I always ask them, now tell us how much your phone actually cost, because that's the biggest differentiator here between your phone and the Nintendo Switch 2. Right now, pretty much all of the rumors are saying that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be around $400. Maybe it's going to be slightly under, maybe slightly over at like $425, $450, or somewhere like that. But that is pretty much the range that Nintendo is going for with how much this system is going to cost. Pretty much every single high-end phone that I have seen for the type of performance that they're able to do when it comes to gaming and having like 90 Hz and 120 Hz and really good 4K displays and OLED screens and all of that, those phones are pretty much always like $1,200, $1,300. And so if you want to have that type of performance in terms of a portable device, now the Switch 2 is going to cost like over $1,000, which now pretty much becomes like a premium system and completely out of range for just normal people who want to have a video game system, which is why Nintendo needs to find the perfect balance, and that's pretty much what they're doing here with the performance that is rumored. Now, when it comes to actually talking about the graphics and visuals for the Nintendo Switch 2 and how it's going to be PlayStation 4-like performance, I really feel like this discussion here about diminishing returns really illustrates why this is going to be such a huge leap for Nintendo, and why in the end it's not really that big of a deal that it's still going to have PS4-like visuals. Now, this image here isn't perfect, but it does illustrate it really well, so for the sake of simplicity, let's just pretend like this very first one here is the PlayStation 1, this is the PlayStation 2, this is the PlayStation 3, this is the PlayStation 4, and this is the PlayStation 5. Now, whenever it comes to 3D models with like 3D characters, they are all made up of triangles and polygons with like a mesh for the actual design for the characters themselves in terms of their model. And with how powerful the system is, the more powerful a console is, the more triangles and the more polygons you're able to have more detailed character models. And so for like this PlayStation 1, if we're talking about this character model here, having 60 triangles, then it really kind of gives you an illustration here of how the character models look like on that system. And if you remember how the 3D characters look like on PS1 games, they were very like pointy and triangular with how a lot of these characters look like. But now just multiplying by 10 with the amount of triangles, you can see here that this is actually much more detailed, and it goes to a night and day type of difference when looking like from a PlayStation 1 to a PlayStation 2. The design for this character here, you can definitely actually see kind of the hair on it here, even kind of the design for like the clothing that they're wearing, actually seeing like their face, and you can definitely see it's a night and day difference just multiplying to having 10 times more triangles from what you had before. And then if you multiply it by 10 times more triangles, going to 6,000 triangles now on the PlayStation 3, now you can see here the character model actually is very much visible. You can actually see the face of this character, you can see the hair on it, you can even see like the clothing that they're wearing here, even like some of the kind of things that they have on their clothes are a little bit more visible, so that is a really big difference too. But then going to another difference now with multiplying it by 10 again to now having 60,000 triangles on the PlayStation 4, now you can see here that the character models are very much detailed. You can see here the hair looks really nice. We can actually see the button here that's on the actual suit for this character as well. Some of the designs here for like the collar and everything. It's a very detailed character model. But now if we multiply from 60,000 to 6 million triangles, you can see here the difference really isn't that big. Like, of course it is still improved, and I'm sure like the face is gonna have still more kind of textures to it. It's gonna look better. We can see the nose here has more definition to it and stuff. Like, it is still an improvement, but it doesn't feel like what it did here when going from this to this, because you're still multiplying by 10. It's not like you're getting more triangles in terms of like the improvement, but it's still like not as big of a difference as you were seeing before. And that's really kind of what's happening now, moving from like the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, as graphics were really kind of peaked at the PlayStation 4. There is so many good PlayStation 4 games that still look really impressive to this day, and you can still play them on your PlayStation 4 and they look really good for 2024. And that's why it doesn't really feel like a night and day type of difference going from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, whereas right now if you played a PlayStation 1 game and then go to a PlayStation 2 game, it feels really kind of insane seeing the kind of difference that you were getting, but you're not really kind of getting that type of difference anymore. And even one day when we inevitably move to the PlayStation 6 in like 2028 or 2029, you're going to notice that there probably isn't going to be a huge night and day difference coming from the PlayStation 5, as graphics have already kind of reached the point where they peaked at the PlayStation 4. Like, there really isn't going to be a huge difference anymore, and just mostly small incremental increases when you're moving to next generation hardware, no matter how many more triangles and things that you're adding to add more to the character models for 3D designs. And the reason why this is important is because when it comes to Nintendo systems, we still haven't reached that true PS4 level performance yet. As we can see here with this kind of character model on this image right here, with this being like the PlayStation 3 one, this is kind of the one that we're at right now when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. And going from this one to this one with the PS4, there is still a good amount of changes that you can notice. You can definitely see here like the button here on the suit becomes more noticeable. You can see like the actual collar and stuff becomes more noticeable as well. Even the faces have much better details to them as well. And so the point is, this is still a noticeable upgrade coming from the PS3 to the PS4. This one here isn't really that big of a deal. You can't really notice it from the PS4 to the PS5, but Nintendo games haven't reached this point yet, and that's when we're finally going to be able to reach that with the Nintendo Switch 2. And that's why this is so crazy, because 60,000 triangles, I mean, if we're talking about how many triangles right now are in terms of things that are on the PlayStation 4, here was an article that I actually found about Kratos from the PlayStation blog when the God of War game came to the PlayStation 4 in 2018. And this really kind of shows you the evolution for the polygons and the triangles that you have for Kratos, because this is for the PlayStation 4 version of the game, and Kratos in the PS4 version of God of War looks really good in terms of its character model. And so we can scroll down here and see them talking about like Kazuya and some other characters too, but we can see here with Kratos, they're really talking about kind of the differences that they've upgraded to the character and how detailed this character model looks on the PlayStation 4 version of the game. And here we can see right here, the Kratos for God of War PS4 has 80,000 polygons in total, with just 32,000 of them being for the face. And so that is really kind of crazy to think about. And so of course, if we go back to this image right here, 80,000, 60,000, this kind of PS4 level image right here, Nintendo games have not reached this level yet. And that's why getting to this level of upgrade in terms of its visual style is going to be a huge leap for Nintendo games. We've never seen this yet with a Zelda or a Mario or a Xenoblade or a Fire Emblem or anything like that. And so it is going to be a huge difference coming from Nintendo. So going from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2 is going to be a big upgrade when it comes to the visual graphics, because we've never reached PS4 level performance truly yet until the Switch 2. And that's why, visually speaking, games from the PlayStation 4 moving to the PlayStation 5 don't really feel like a night and day type of difference, and it's really only noticeable if you sit very close to your TV or your monitor when you're playing the game, as if you're sitting on your couch and you're sitting far away, most of the time I can't even really tell the difference between playing a game in 4K and if it's in like 1440p. The Last of Us Part 2, which came out on the PlayStation 4, is actually getting a PlayStation 5 remaster, which is coming out in a few days, but have any of you guys actually seen like those comparisons with the PS4 version and the remastered PS5 version? Like, the visuals are just barely upgraded, and they still look so good even on the PlayStation 4. Like, of course the PS5 one is better slightly, but it's not like a night and day difference where you're like, oh my god, it's so much better on the PS5. It still looks really good on the PS4. And that's the thing, Nintendo games haven't reached that PS4 level yet, so just getting to that level is going to be so insane for us moving from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2. And now think about some of the gorgeous PlayStation 4 games visually, and think about how Nintendo games would look like if they had this type of performance and visuals unlocked with the Nintendo Switch 2. Final Fantasy VII Remake is one of my favorite looking PlayStation 4 games. The entire city of Midgard just looks so good, especially at night when it's lighting up and you can look above you and see the plates. Just having all the details in the environments when you're walking around, the characters themselves, everything is so detailed in that game, and it is still breathtaking to look at even in 2024 on the PS4. God of War 2018 is definitely one of the best looking games on the PlayStation 4. We talked about how detailed they were able to make Kratos' character model and having access to so many polygons and triangles now, and you can see how good he looks inside of that game. But even in terms of just the environments themselves, how detailed the entire world is, and even God of War Ragnarok, which just came out very recently, is still also on the PS4 as well, and that game looks incredible too. Red Dead Redemption 2 was definitely one of the best looking games that came out during this past generation as well. Just riding on a horse through this beautiful scenery, it looks so nice on a PlayStation 4. Then you've got like Marvel's Spider-Man with this entirely detailed New York City that you can swing around in. Everything is already loaded. You've got these different taxis and cars always driving around, all of these different NPCs that are walking, and like everything is loaded, everything is there, and you can like walk around in this entire city, which looks really, really good even on the PS4. Ghost of Tsushima is probably one of the most breathtaking games that we've seen on the PlayStation 4, with how detailed and stylized that game is able to look too, and just having that type of art style, you can see how gorgeous a game like that is able to look too, with all the leaves that are falling, the sunsets and everything. It is just a very beautiful game to look at. And then you've also got open world games like Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, where you've got like these really beautiful fantasy landscapes to walk around in, interact with the environment, and they look so good even on the PlayStation 4 as well. So now think about Nintendo games and Nintendo developers finally being unlocked this type of visual capability on the Nintendo Switch 2. It's even crazier because unlike PlayStation games, which tend to have like a more realistic type of art style for many of them, Nintendo games are much more stylized and have a different type of art direction and art style, and because of that, the games are much more like cartoony-like, and so now just having this type of visual capability unlocked, but for a game like Mario and Zelda where they're not even trying to be hyper-realistic, you're not going to see like every single pore on Link and Mario's skin, but now imagine what they can do to those fantasy environments just having this type of power unlocked. The Mario world that could be created, the 3D world of Hyrule that can be created like this, and especially even games like Xenoblade, which I'm really looking forward to, just seeing what Monolith Soft is able to do on the Nintendo Switch is already kind of insane, with seeing how like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is able to have like these huge fantasy environments on a Nintendo Switch, but now having something that's going to have like 4 to 6 times more visual capabilities, I can't even imagine what they're going to be able to make their fantasy environments look like on the next Nintendo system, and that just makes me so excited. With the rumors of like ray tracing capabilities and all of that, like imagine being able to see the reflections on like Samus's like armor when you're walking around inside of Metroid Prime 4 or something. Like it just makes me so excited to think about how good the games could look visually, because for us, going from the Switch to the Switch 2 is going to be a massive leap in terms of visual performance. It's not going to be like from a PS4 to a PS5 where it's just like a marginal increase. For us, this is going to be like the final leap where it's really going to feel like a night and day difference coming from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2, whereas now going from the Switch 2 to the Switch 3 is probably going to be like the PS4 to the PS5, where it's really going to be the peak of Nintendo graphics with the Switch 2, and then after that it's not really going to be as much of a difference anymore. And of course, a lot of people are forgetting that even if the system is going to be like PlayStation 4 level performance, it's not going to have the PlayStation 4 chips from like 2013. You're still going to have much more modern and updated chips that have way better tech than what was available in 2013. So even if the raw performance number is the same as the PlayStation 4, the actual capabilities of the tech is going to be so much better, so much more modern, and you're going to have so many other cool things like NVIDIA DLSS upscaling technology to make these types of games look like they're running in 4K or maybe 1440p, even if they're not actually running at that resolution. So in the end, it's going to look even better than most PlayStation 4 games. And so I really don't know why people were upset at hearing the information that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to have PlayStation 4 like performance and visuals, as anybody who's actually knowledgeable in tech and really kind of understands the point that we're at right now with the current Nintendo Switch is definitely going to be excited to know that there's going to be a big difference going from the Nintendo Switch to the Nintendo Switch 2 based on all of the rumors that we have right now. And I guarantee that all of these people, when they see the next 3D Mario game or the next 3D Zelda or Xenoblade or something, they're going to be like, oh my god, this is crazy coming from the Nintendo Switch. So I think they're just going to have to see something to really kind of understand how big of a deal this is and why this is actually going to be really amazing for the Nintendo Switch 2. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well, as I'm definitely going to have some more videos talking about the Switch 2 as the information comes out. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think about all of this. Are you okay if the Switch 2 is going to have PS4 level power and PS4 like visuals, or do you want something a little bit better? But if you don't have anything to say, just comment your favorite emoji for some engagement. I would really appreciate it. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.